Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me on this week's Pillow Talk podcast. It's great to be back doing it here. This week I have a very interesting guest for you. It is Sophie Short. I'm going to give her introduction that we put onto the promotion for this chat, and then I'll let her introduce herself. So this one's very intriguing. You're going to look forward to hearing all about this. So former paraplegic, turned property investor and entrepreneurial business coach, home education mum, helping families live financially free from the system. So there's loads to unpick there. That was just a little text header, a bio. Over to you, Sophie, in a couple of minutes, just explain, give us an introduction and a little bit about your business. Over to you.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Scott. So it's really exciting to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So I am currently in between kind of like a transition phase. I am an entrepreneurial business coach, have been for the last 6 years or so. Um, I'm currently transitioning into property itself. I've been in and out of property for about the last 10 to 15 years, but mostly for other people. And I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to keep making everybody else rich. I want to get wealthy with them. So, background of how I got to where I am, I'm always somebody that didn't quite fit into the crowd, shall we say. I always stood out. And I always used to think not in a good way, but actually, where I had this mindset kind of throughout life of I'm very much an introvert and I shouldn't go to this and I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't have this opinion. Actually, I'm very, very much an extrovert. I was just around the wrong types of people. I've got dreams that are so big that people think I'm absolutely bonkers. I've got beliefs that are so out there that people think I'm absolutely bonkers. So I kind of was like, well, how can I make life work for me? I've had a series of events happen over my life that if we dive into it, we do. If we don't, we don't. From severe accidents to trauma to mental health. And I've had to overcome quite a lot of that, quite a lot of diagnoses. Diagnoses, is that even a word? I'm an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. Um, I've had to overcome quite a lot of label giving, should we say. And the issue I found was when you are presented with a label by, let's say, a medical professional, you start to adopt that type of behavior and accept it as, well, I'm allowed to behave this way. But I didn't like how I was allowing myself to be. So I dived more into the world of mindset, power. And then I fell in love with, not literally, but I fell in love with a coach I had at the time, helping me through mindset, through a really dark period of life. And then I was like, I could do this as a living. Started doing life coaching. Found out very quickly I couldn't actually life coach other people going through heavy trauma. Even though I qualified in trauma, I wasn't ready to be a sponge and take on that level of pain from people. So I thought, how can I coach, but without the trauma? And it was to go to entrepreneurs, go to people that had already passed that phase in their life and gone, I've got bigger things to do. So I've been doing that for the last 6 or so years. And yeah, now I'm at the point of, let's build this property portfolio. The purpose behind that is passive income. I home educate my children. My husband works with me. We're building this dream out so that eventually I can tone down my one-to-one coaching per se, which is super time consuming. I love it, but it does come at a really heavy sacrifice of the time I get to spend elsewhere. And one of my kids is nearly 11, and when did that happen? so yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Cool, beautiful. So many things to explore there, and I think I summarised everything I know about this, about our relationship. We met through a property group, Touchstone. We're both in it, so both part of the same communities, kind of live events. We had a joint passion for property and building things for our families, but also of, I think, living free. And I put the title of this is Mindset. You're a mindset coach, property, we're both in property. Family, because family is both important to us, but freedom as well. So there was the common love of property and business and mindset, but also freedom and, I don't know, living a good life without being controlled by external forces, and we'll explore that a little bit at the end because I want to give value to the audience. I'm going to jump in and say thank you guys for everyone that is watching live. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, some social media platforms I'm not cool enough to even know about, but we will be streaming live there. So welcome to everyone. If you have any questions for Sophie, please pop them in, and I should be able to bring them over onto the screen. So this is much better when the audience is more interactive. We're going to just sit and chat and ignore you anyway, but if you want to be involved, please ask your questions live, and we'll have a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So a few things I wanted to explore. The reason I wanted to do the podcast is I kind of knew you through property. You're already a successful business owner, and we didn't really, you were very modest, and you downplayed just how successful you are in the kind of coaching space, and I've got a lot of respect for you there. But we crossed paths because of your transition into property. So I think many people looking are in employment or do have their own jobs, and that job is essentially time for money. If we think of tradespeople that are on the tools, well, swapping an hour of time for a set amount of money, as are coaches, as are we essentially, Sophie. But property businesses does build a different income stream. And for those guys, the books over there, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, going from employee to self-employed to business owner to investor, then we want to work through that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki matrix. But if we're working time for money, Sophie, there's only a set amount of time in the day. So we're going to explore the property side. Here's a little question from Emma. So I'll just bring in, so Emma, you might notice a similar second name there. She's in the building somewhere doing some work. Building your property empire sounds exciting. What's your end goal, and where do you see yourself in 10 years? See, this is why we were going to do the Werewolf podcast, because Emma's name is Weir. Emma's name is Wolf. So it'd be much better with Emma sitting here next to me, because she asks much better questions than me. So let's just jump in and explore that. Firstly, let's just wait. Property. How is this going to change your life in, let's say, 10 years?
So, obviously, I've got a successful business, and I could carry on doing that because it actually brings me in more than what property will do initially. Yep. However, my end goal, so here's me in 10 years time. Okay, not even 10 years time. This is me, without giving away my age, 40 is the target, and I don't have long. But
just 10 years.
Yeah, the dream is to have my own land, with my family. We want an off-grid community of like-minded individuals. I would like high-end glamping pods on that side of the land, so that's a passive stream of income. Obviously, I would have a serviced accommodation manager dealing with all of the bookings there. And on the opposite side of the property, I want a high-end equestrian facility. Let's jump back years, even more than 10 years ago. I went to an equestrian college. I was actually looking to become like an equestrian rehab and physio vet. For various reasons, obviously changed that path. However, I've always had this passion with horses. I'm an equestrian myself. And I was like, do you know what? One day I'm going to have my own land. When I went to college, I was the kid that got bullied because I had the rescue horse that I paid about £600 in donation to rehome him, while every other woman or girl at the time, when I was at school, at college, had like the 40 grand German dressage horses. So I was the kid that had the scraps, should we say. So I was like, well, do you know what? One day I'm going to have land with those exact horses on it, and I'm going to have a combination of the two, and I'll probably still will rescue some crappy little horse that's got a temperament that wants to kill me, but I just love him. So yeah, the end goal, 10 years time, is high-end equestrian facility on my own land, passive income, account manager, yard manager, running the ship, grooms, etc. Other side of the land, serviced accommodation. People can see the horses, you know, and I'm the dream is big here. Like I'm talking Olympic level horses, with my house smack bang in the middle. The way I get there is through property, is through raising capital, is through raising finance. So yeah, it's just a case of in my coaching, I tell people, what is your end goal? Let's work that out, and then we reverse engineer it. It's so much harder to think of what you need to do now and then build your way up to a goal. It's better to just reverse engineer always, because if you've got a vision in sight, if you can visualize something, you can achieve it. And I'm yet to have anybody prove me that that's incorrect.
I think this goes back to the very basics and people and the law of attraction and manifestation. But when you go back to the early 1900s and all the pioneers of the self-development movement, Napoleon Hill, people well known, see it and you'll believe it and you'll see it. It's the basics of vibrations of life and actually believing in yourself, working towards a common goal. But when you start having those things, if I'm doing this at home, Sophie, I have my vision board, very similar to you, and Em and I's close friend who has a big equestrian centre and takes in all the, she has a very successful jeweller's business and a very successful doggy daycare business, but funds helping horses that nobody else wants, and she takes in all these things. So Louise looks after our dogs when we go away, similar to you. SA units, but ours would not be horses, it would be Wag World, it would be a rescue for all the dogs that nobody loves. And when you think of that, and again, that's why I have it in my vision board, the Park Hotels in Cape Verde, the Wag World, the goals and dreams of linking something back emotionally to when you started your journey of building a life is much more powerful than a number saying I want to make X amount of money by X amount of time. So you're linking your dreams to something that's emotionally important to you. And study the energy levels in life, guys. You'll realise that just attracts things, and you notice things, and you make stuff happen. So super interesting. We'll come back to that. Thank you for that. Emma says, love that. Thank you. So guys, please, any questions, pop them in, and I'll bring them up. So you had mentioned in your thing paraplegic, because tell us about that, because I see you running about and doing things and been very active. So
Trying to.
Tell us a little bit about that then, if you don't mind. If you want to stick to property, we'll do that.
Yeah, sure. Sure thing.
Around mindset.
Yeah, so in 2016, so I was semi-paraplegic, and the term semi, there's different ways to perceive that. Sometimes semi-paraplegia is permanent for life. Sometimes it just means that clinicians don't quite know what is causing the loss of movement in a particular part of the body. I had mild semi-paraplegia from the waist down, and basically what happened is I got up one morning. My son was 8 months old at the time. Michael and I were in the swing of planning a wedding. We were living the dream, recently got engaged. I was on maternity leave, and he was doing really well in his work, hadn't just left the army. I'd gone out for a drive and I was on my own, thankfully. Well within a speed limit. On a 60 road, I was doing 48, I think, dry-ish circumstances, and I aquaplaned my car on a sharp bend. We live in the countryside, so every road is a bend. And I'd aquaplaned on what the police believed to be a large spillage of tractor diesel or tractor petrol fuel, basically. The reason they put it down to a large vehicle is purely because of the amount that was there. If it was a car, then it would have been broken down the road, but there was no sign of any vehicle broken down. Now, obviously, there's a lot of tractors in and out of where I live. My car ended up in the ditch. I actually ended up facing the opposite way on the same side of the road in a 10-foot ditch. All of my car windows smashed, and I'm in a ditch full of 3-4 foot high stinging nettles. Not feeling a thing, literally adrenaline takes over, and I broke 7 bones in my neck, so my C-spine, and I broke my thoracic and lumbar as well. But my thoracic and lumbar, get my words out, were compression fractures. So it's not like in my neck I'd got clean fractures, and sometimes I share images of this. I don't do too much on social media because I don't like to. It's actually quite hard for me to look back on these images. There's obviously things there that I've parked them, and I will revisit them one day. But when my kids are older, because there's obviously clearly still some element of trauma there. But I'm quite happy to share any links to do with the Magpus Air Ambulance. I was in the newspapers because you believe it or not, the amount of times I've had people accuse me of this being a false story because apparently it's just not possible, especially when I overcome it through mindset and nutrition. That irritates people a lot. So yeah, I had this car accident, airlifted to hospital, multiple fractures in the spine. It took me 2.5 years to learn to walk without aids. I could walk without them, but I was heavily reliant. Like my legs would. So I developed something called functional neurological disorder, which means when the body is starting to get pressure too much on any one area, for example, my legs, the brain would switch off my legs. I had no control over it. And then I would look like I've got Parkinson's. So I'd literally violently shake, and it would be like the bottom part of my body was having a seizure, but my brain was fine. I spent in and out of hospital for 2 years for that. I ended up getting put on so much medication. I can't tell you how many opiates I was on: ketamine, morphine, Oromorph, Tramadol, and I basically got addicted to medication, and to the point where I couldn't go out of the house without it. It crippled my life. I was so paranoid about it. Wasn't the fact I was addicted to how this medication made me feel. I was paranoid about how I would feel if I didn't take it. Like, what if I get in pain and I can't have it? And my car accident was on October the 3rd, 2016 at 3:05 p.m. Again, Magpus Air Ambulance reports. I can back all of this up. To jump forward a little bit, there's one hell of a healing journey that goes on in between that. Bearing in mind also a pandemic. Sorry for that. I'm one of those. For anybody listening,
people know
London, so the London Marathon is always in April. Has been in its 20 odd years or however long it's been going. Religiously, it's always in April. In 2021, the London Marathon was pushed to October, just so they could get past this wave of COVID. Let's wait a few months and then chuck hundreds of thousands of people in the same area and make them run. Sounds great. Anyhow, I started sharing like my daily pandemic walk on places like Strava, just to track my movement, because I was like, I'm doing it. I'm back on my feet. And I felt really good. And a coach reached out to me, and he was like, you were the lady that was former paraplegic, weren't you? And I was like, yeah. He was like, your run times are pretty decent. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I'm not attempting to do anything. And he was like, you should seriously consider getting yourself a running coach. Coincidentally for me, I have an uncle. I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name, Clive Maltby, Village Runners, who is a run coach. So I started running with him and we made it a goal that I was going to run the London Marathon.
Amazing.
Bearing in mind, it was only, when was this? 2016. So we are now 3 years post my accident-ish, 3-4 years, to the point where I broke my neck. Get this out, the London Marathon advertisement comes out. Guess what day the marathon is hosted on? October the 3rd, 2021. 5 years to the day that I broke my neck. So my uncle was like, there you go, woo woo, because obviously I'm very spiritual. He was like, how's that for, a series of events? Anyway, we planned, we'd been running. I'd run over 800 miles in my journey of healing. And by the way, guys, this wasn't easy. I'm just going to be trigger warning. There were suicide attempts in that healing journey. Okay, there were times where I was like, I can't do this. I hate my body. I hate my life. So I'm not here to just be like, look at shiny object syndrome and you can achieve absolutely anything easily. Yeah. I've been to war with some demons, right? I've probably met Satan, and he was like, get rid of her, because that's the next leader down there. Anyhow, I ran the London Marathon, and unplanned, completely unplanned. I couldn't pick my start time. I did not pick my start time, but I crossed the London Marathon finish line at 3:05 p.m. The exact time my Magbus air ambulance report says I broke my neck 5 years earlier. So this is where I had that kind of aha moment. Holy shit, life is not pre-planned, but I don't believe in coincidence. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't even know. Sorry, did I just completely derail from the original question? So how did I break my neck? Car crash, basically.
Because we're talking about mindset, and I did not know any of that about you. That's amazing. I did not know. It reminds me, I'm sure is it Joe Dispenza that had the exact same story, get hit by a bike and went through the same healing journey. When you signed up for that marathon,
I'm obsessed with him.
were you told by books, were you told by every medical professional not to do it and that was impossible, more or less?
Pretty much. So just without going into too much of it, within that 5-year journey, I was diagnosed with, obviously, well, first of all, they misdiagnosed after my car crash, they sent me home with 3 fractures. My husband took me back to the hospital the following day and was like, she can't move, something's wrong. They then found out I'd got 7 in the neck and 2 in the thoracic and lumbar. So they'd missed multiple fractures. But anyway, won't get too much on about the NHS. Look, they saved my life when they did. I've got other opinions that I'm sure we can talk about at a later date. But during that period of time with me battling mental health, they tried to pin me with postpartum depression. I'm not going to lie, when I first had my son, so we went through fertility help initially to have my son, and I did have postnatal depression in the first 6 months of him being born. I'd overcome that, and I had 2 months medication free before I had my accident. The first thing they did when the police cautioned me in hospital with a neck brace on, you do not have to say anything but it may harm your defense, because they thought I had attempted to cause my own accident. Thankfully, court rulings proved otherwise. So I was labelled postnatal depression, postpartum psychosis during that period. I then got told I'd got functional neurological disorder, semi-paraplegia, won't be able to walk again. One doctor told me I would never live life unmedicated again, and I had to be on antipsychotics, antidepressants, anti-anxiety. Bearing in mind at the time I was on all of this medication. Then I was told, due to the medication, well, obviously they didn't say due to the medication. And by the way, I'm not, anybody on antidepressants listening to this, I'm not condoning your situation. This is my story, my journey. I'm not encouraging anyone to just come off of it. Do what's right for you. If you trust your doctors and it feels right for you, please do that. But I ended up having these erratic mood swings, like just, they were wild. I was either up here or down here. I was either living my best life or I was attempting to take my life. And the hospital said to me, you've got bipolar. I have got people with bipolar in my family. So do I believe I have the traits of it? Yeah, I can do. But again, at the time of being told I had it, I allowed myself to then behave more erratically because I've got it. Therefore, I'm allowed to behave that way. It was disgusting. I was horrible at times. And again, they put me on medication for it. Over that period of time, my heart starts beating irregularly. So in 2018, just to swing it left a little bit, just a sheer accident, but what a series of events. I got bitten by a false widow spider in my back garden and ended up with severe sepsis. I was in critical care for a period of time. Right here, I don't know if you can see that scar there.
It's a white widow spider?
A false widow. So it's a clone of a black widow, and they are genetically modified spiders. Anyhow, due to my sepsis, so when you get sepsis, and this will all tie in, when you get sepsis, they have to give you medication that not only kills your bad bacteria to fight the sepsis, but it destroys every white blood cell and good bacteria that you've got in your body. So after you've healed from sepsis, it can be years re-healing your body and really building back up your immune system. You've got an immune system after severe sepsis. You've got an immune system like a newborn baby. It's shit. It shocked. Sorry, excuse me swearing. So I had to spend a lot of time healing my gut, rehealing my body, and just nurturing it. And I developed something that they then called fibromyalgia. My body was constantly in pain. I was constantly tired. The person come next to me who had the slightest sniffle stuck me in bed for 5 days. That again, I then start repeating this cycle of, I hate life. I don't want to be here. I'm going to try and end it. And my husband got to the point where he just didn't want to go to work. So he's like, I don't know what day I'm going to come home and my wife's not going to be present. Anyway, we get to 2019 and one of my sisters is round. We're having some food at the table. Her partner's here. My husband is here. And I was like, I really, really feel unwell. Like, I'm going to go and sit down in the lounge. Bearing in mind at this point, I can't tell you all the names of them, but I'm on about 11 different medications. 2 of them only relevant. The rest of it is to counteract side effects of the first 2, and then the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th. So my body's now overloaded, as well as being completely shot from sepsis. And I went and sat in the living room, and my husband came in, and I was having a heart attack in 2019. So I got to the hospital, and they said it was only then, after being on all this medication for 3 years, that they were like, why are you on this with this and this with this and that with that and that at your age and that without having this? Like, these doctors were like, you should be dead. Like, not only from all of the things you've been through, but from the things you're putting into your body, you shouldn't be alive. So then I was like, right, I need some help then on how to come off of it all. And they were like, it's going to be a long journey. So I spent the whole of 2019 really trying to work with doctors on what I could come off when. So I managed to get myself off quite a lot of it, but I was still heavily kind of taking antidepressants and antipsychotics. I'd come off of the, or at least reduced dramatically the opiates. Now I was now just on tramadol. And I was on some other things, because by this time now I was suffering from what's called aura migraines, where you get blackouts, and I then literally had to be in bed all the time. Like, this is a period of my life where I was just like, and I mean this term nicely, but crippled in my eyes. 2020 happens, and we have this thing called lockdown. And coincidentally, overnight, there was no mental health therapy. There was no mental health help. 111 was overloaded with calls. 999 wasn't available. I couldn't go to a hospital. I couldn't go to a doctor. And I was like, how the fuck do I pick up a prescription? Like, I'm reliant on medication to stay alive at the moment. I was still in that kind of mindset. And I'm like, where's the help? But the help disappeared because of this lockdown, this pandemic. My husband he was a medic in the military, and I said to my husband, we need to make a plan. So because I could feel my heart like really beating. I was panicking because I was like, oh my god, my medication's running out. I need this prescription. So I still knew that addiction was slightly there, or even not such addiction, but reliance. So the only option I had was to go cold turkey on everything. And I kid you not, the hardest 12 weeks of my life. I can't imagine how people on hardcore drugs. I mean, having said that though, like, some doctor said to me, don't downplay your story, like, opiates are hardcore. I basically went cold turkey on everything. And during that time, I reached out to a guy. I won't mention him just yet, but I'm happy to drop his name later on if I ask he's okay for me to share it, because he was a chiropractor who used to work for the NHS, who then decided to go solo, because he was like, as a chiropractor in the NHS, he was always told to heal people through medication and prescriptions. He was like, and there was a target for it. He said, I had to have X amount of my patients seen on prescriptions monthly. He was like, but chiropractor isn't just about the spine. It's about how the spine talks to every nerve ending, every cell, every atom, everything in your body. He was like, 'cause it's all connected. So we got talking to him, and he come and see us in the pandemic, and he was like, I don't give a shit about the lockdown rules. I don't care about COVID. He said, because suicide is currently killing more people than the pandemic itself. So he came out to see me, and we started talking a lot about energy and healing, and just spirituality and stored trauma and where it is in the body. And he was like, it's interesting because everywhere I was feeling pain, he was like, I can help you release that. So, and it's interesting how certain areas of the bodies hold pain based on the traumas you've experience. So yeah, ultimately, I then spent 2020 to 2021 really moving, understanding healing, getting the right types of people in front of me, you know, the spiritual healers, the medicinal, you know, your Chinese medicine, your ancient medicine, basically medicine before it was patented. And then 2021, run a London marathon in a what is 4 hours 36 minutes. I would never do that again.
That's nearly athlete level. I've only ever done one marathon, and it was
I think I was running through pure adrenaline and fear because I don't like people. Bear in mind, I'm around people that aren't usually my kettle of fish. So it was just a case of go and get done. But in the process, raised £4,000 for the Magmas Air Ambulance to say thank you for ultimately saving my life. So yeah, mindset.
Through adrenaline and fear, but I would say strength and determination would have overridden any fear, because when you're doing it, especially if you've got so many people relying when you're raising money for this, that determination would have overridden any fear, because if fear was the principal one, you wouldn't have done it. Oh, what if I do it and let people down?
There comes a point where it was just like I had to shut out the noise from everybody who didn't think I could live the life that I was like I wanted. I was at a point. I was like, I'm not even 30. Well, when I broke my neck, I was 20. I think I was 20. I think I was 27, and I was at a point where, by the time I got to the pandemic, it was just about shutting out the noise from anybody who didn't believe that I could achieve the things that I wanted to achieve, whether that was coming off medication, running a marathon. It's the same with property. It's the same with my coaching business. A lot of people are like, oh, don't do your own business. What if it goes wrong? Yeah, well, you can get fired in your own job. And at least when you're in a 9 to 5, you're trusting that somebody else don't just fire you. When you're in your own job, you've got more control. Same with property. Oh, but what if it goes wrong? Yeah, but what if it all goes right?
I say it, and again, I say it as an employer. Would you rather work for yourself, Sophie, and have that risk, and need to have that entrepreneurial mindset? Would you rather you worked for me and your destiny was in my hands, whether my business succeeded? If you were going to go on an anniversary, or you're going to ask somebody like me if you can go to your kid's sports day, or you can go and go and spend a date night with your husband, but you have to ask somebody else's permission. Can I please get some time off to go on my anniversary or spend a honeymoon? So I'm an advocate of there is risk being an entrepreneur. There's more risk being an employee, especially in today's state, with AI and employers just about to get taxed into the ground. And guys, don't be believing Andy Burnham's your saviour coming to help you. And politicians are not there to serve the people.
We're on the same train.
A different topic, but the only thing is, as we said at the beginning, that rich dad, poor dad matrix: employee, self-employed, jumping over to the kind of hands-off, which is business owner, then investor. So that kind of covers a nice thing. And I'm very glad that we went into that, because as somebody that does interviews and does this, I can talk about property and entrepreneurship and mindset and service accommodation all day long. But these topics here is a great learning experience for me. I did not know any about that. So that's amazing. And for anybody watching, I can't turn round, but our thing in the back of the jumpers is stronger together. It's one of our core values. And I would say get in where you fit and do business with people that are like you. We'll explore a little bit about property and stuff later. But now anybody watching this has a much better understanding of Sophie. And are you okay if I share your Facebook? Because if there's people going through similar journeys, they might want to connect with you. So I'll pop your Facebook link in here, and I'll bring it up. It should go into the chats if you guys are watching. But guys, I would just touch in. You could probably save many people's lives by this podcast. So hopefully we'll let people hear about your property journey, and some people get opportunities to do business with you. But I genuinely suspect you've saved somebody's life with this podcast going through a similar thing, and that's much more impact than anything.
That's well.
Yes, yeah. So I know 100% somebody will come across this in the next 12 months that is at that point where you were, and they'll reach out or see your story and think, I'm exactly where she was and get through it, and nearly made the same decisions. but how Sophie can be a mindset coach, can run a marathon, and then transition into building a dream life through property. That's amazing, because you, Mike, with your husband, you've got a camper van. You do live a nice life, not tied to an employment role. So that's when I put about family and freedom. We'll come into that. So I want to talk about your journey now. Everything that's happened, it makes a lot more sense to me. Property, because we met through Touchstone and that community of like-minded people, and it was property and a little bit of the freedom and our views on society and how things are run. But I have a much better understanding. It does make sense of why you're going into property. So your dreams of having this equestrian centre and doing property, what's the first stage in that? Because Emma took us 10 years into the future, which is dream setting. What's the plans for the next 12 months? Switching that money per hour to building a property business. What's the first couple of steps that you're going to take to move that forward?
So I'm starting in property with a bit of a head start. So I have got experience in real estate valuation and survey. That's a role that I did before I became a mum. That was what I was on maternity leave for when I had my crash. So I have got experience in the property industry. I've got a love of interior design and architecture. Whilst I'm not a professional in it, I have helped friends who have flipped properties, finished staging their houses, and kind of brought the vision to life. Yeah. So initially, for this next 12 months, I'm just here to raise capital and flip properties. Yeah. Have I got the funds to do it myself? Yes. But I also want to show, I'm always somebody trying to show other people that you can achieve it even if you feel stuck. So yes, I'm in a position where I can move, where I don't have to rely on external factors. However, to me, being a role model is just as is up there with being wealthy, just as making money. Yeah. I don't want to make money and drive a flash car and wear fancy watches and show off in that way. I want to make money and show other people that it's possible for you to do it too, because it's only you stopping you from living your dream life. So the way I feel I can do that the best is to raise finance and flip properties without using a single penny of my own. Don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy to put my money in someone else's project. So it's working over there in the wheels where I'm not doing anything and it's making money. But I'm using somebody else's funds. I'm flipping a house. Then I'm giving them their money back. And then I am making a profit when the house sells. So it's just a case of rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat until you kind of hit the £1 million mark, which won't be long. Yep. And then after I have done a couple of flips, then it's a case of extend the strategies and hold the properties. So doing like your BRRs. I'm not really looking for properties where I can have long-term tenants in. I have a passion for creating like high-end holiday lets. I want the holiday lets that your millionaire wants to go and stay in for a weekend with his mistress while the wife's at home. A bit naughty, but I've, some people need it. Yeah. So, or the properties where people want a UK honeymoon, for example, like those are the sorts of serviced accommodations I want to build. And then to me, it means that these properties aren't occupied 24/7. They're not going to get the wear and tear they want, but they're bringing in more than if I had somebody living there full time. So everything I do in life, I always analyze it. I probably actually overanalyze, if I'm honest, but I always analyze things to see the long-term vision of how is this going to help me in the process. So for the next 12 months, flip properties, and at some point, whenever that point is, I'm quite flexible with it. It will be start holding some properties in the process as well.
Nice. So guys, if you're listening and you're a millionaire, then that's the target market. If you're the mistress of a millionaire and wants to get somewhere you can escape this as well. So a couple of things you'd mentioned doing valuations, and one of the things about raising money from investors, and that is when they're doing their due diligence, and one of the things for people offering deals is the return and the time frame for this. So that's one of the things that people look at, and I suppose these type of things have a bit of a reputation of a lot of people overestimate the value of these things, underestimate the time frame. But as a valuer in a previous career, your numbers are going to be a lot sharper than somebody that perhaps didn't do that as a career. So you've got experience in that to make sure the numbers stack and you're going to get them right.
Yeah, and I'm not in this I'm not in this for greed at all. I'm in this to get results. To me, it's about doing something once and then repeating the pattern. Because once you've got a foundation of something and you just keep doing it, and eventually what I can then do is teach somebody else to do it and come aboard with the team. And something, I've always adopted in my own business, I've got VAs working with me, but notice the word with. I never have people work for me. I hate that term. You work with me because I want to help you change your life and vice versa. But working with people in joint ventures, for example, whether you want to put just money in and have nothing to do with it and just get your money back with a return, or whether you want to take part in the project, you want to earn and learn, or you want to do 50-50 with kind of just getting stuck in, we work with people and we split profits pretty healthily. It sucks in life and business when you're making a ton of cash and nobody around you is either. And guess what? When you pay somebody generously, so say, for example, you and I were doing a joint venture, Scott, and I said at the end, even if you didn't want anything to do with it, how would you feel if I said to you, Scott, give me 200 grand, and by the time this property's finished, when we've sold it, I'll give you 50-50 of the profits. So you get your money back, but I'll give you 50-50. It's not 10%, it's not 8%, it's not 12%. Let's go 50-50 on the profits. The idea of that is then, yes, you get your profit at the end, but psychologically, you're going to be thinking at the end of that project, oh, let's go again with Sophie.
Yeah.
I immediately get your money back. So even though I've given you your money, it's yours to do what you want. You might not want to go again, and that's absolutely okay. But again, it's building patterns with people. So yes, I'm going to give you your money back, but I'm going to borrow it again at a later stage. So does it really matter? Like, money's abundant. Does it matter what bank account it's coming from? What I'm getting at is anybody who does want to consider working with us, my husband and I, on joint ventures, we split profits really quite healthily. That's how you build really beautiful relationships. Now, having said that, though, we are strict with our boundaries. I'm very, very careful with who I spend my time and energy with. So if you came to me and said, I've got £1 million in the bank, but you are quite narcissistic, you are a micromanager, you want to reach out to me every day for an update of something when you know there's not yet. No, keep your money. Thank you very much. I wish you all the success, but the bank will give you 1%. So it's about working with the right people, because we want to work with people that I'm like, do you know what? With one heck of a freaking year, let's book our asses to a holiday to Hawaii. Let's go celebrate on a beach and chuck it on a tax return. So yeah, it's about surrounding ourselves with the right types of people. It's not just about the money, but in a joint venture, we also split it in a really healthy way, which I don't know how many people actually do that.
As you say, if you are two things: one, preferred investors. If you've got funds and you have a dream and a plan, if you need money, you then need to compromise on who you take money with and how that makes you feel, and the stress. If you've got 6 months of stress and hassle, and it affects you being a mum and a business person, and it brings you down in any way and lowers the vibration, there's probably no amount of property finance or cash exit at the end of that's worth it, because there's more to life than that. So when you're in a nice position to be selective and only work with people, get in where you fit in. You mentioned things. I'll always joke and say I'm never going to build relationships with a guy that cares about Lambos, Rolexes, private jets, and I've got many friends and people and mentors that do that. But from a kind of day-to-day thing, I'm not going to know anything about cars. I don't know anything. So I would only appeal to a certain type of people. People use my services in the team, but many people don't, because it's not a good fit for them. So you don't need to appeal to everybody. You just need to have shared core values for the people that.
Yeah, definitely. Don't get me wrong, though. I very much do have like a split personality. So as much as being the homestead, wannabe home, but off-grid type mum, I am also very much I will never turn right on an aeroplane if I don't have to. So, without sounding snobby, like, I know what I like and I know what I enjoy in life. And do you know what? I work too freaking hard to not have that little bit of luxury. So yeah, it's you know, if you want both, this is what I teach in business. I'm like, you don't have to pick between being an amazing mum or growing your own veg or having your own animals and cattle and farm and whatever. You don't have to pick between that self-sufficient life where you're very present and this one over here where it's luxury and you get waited on and you know, life is just beautiful because you're like, do you know what, I earned that. Yeah. But don't get caught with, don't get lost in what you need to do in between to get there. This doesn't just happen by chance. That's a freaking hard life to live. Yep. You know, just being a stay-at-home mum is an incredibly hard life, and this life over here is equally as hard. They've both got different journeys that women need to go through, or even men, but my passion is mostly women, obviously. I am one. So yeah, it's you can have both if you want to, but equally, if you are one or the other, hook me up, because there's still a common interest there.
Lovely. And do you have a specific area that you're going to specialize in, like geographically? So at a certain amount of time from your house, distance from your house, areas you've identified as good returns, you've done your market research on. Is there? Do you have a target market here for people that would want to invest money in a specific area, or is it all about the deal?
So we invest nationwide. We are even going as far as international. Yeah. Currently, my husband and I are exploring opportunities in Germany and Indonesia. Drop one there. Nobody knew about that, so get that out there. We've got friends who are successful realtors and property investors in both of those countries, so that's a consideration. We're also considering the likes of Gran Canaria, Canary Islands. But UK wise, again, it is nationwide. It took me a long time in property to let go of the emotional attachment. What's my ideal property flip? Well, if you open up Beatrix Potter's books and look at the cottage on the front with the, you know, with the rabbits outside the front of it, that's my dream flip. You know, with the character, the stone walls, the buddleia and the wisteria climbing up the wall, the fireplaces. That to me is my passion project. But in order to get to that passion project, obviously you've got to do your ex-council house, your empty home schemes. Yeah. You've got to do your repossessions, properties that have gone through probate. So the ones that I'm like, don't really want that on my portfolio, but it did get me to this bit. So it's about going where the money is. So I will go wherever. Currently we are looking mostly up north because there is a lot there. That's got bigger profit margins. And again, if I'm going to split 50-50, don't really want to be coming away with, you know, I want to still make sure we're getting at least 15 grand each after capital gains tax. So it gives you an idea of kind of the numbers we're fixating on. Yeah. To us, it's not about trying to get a fixed amount. We'll try and work on percentages rather than, we want to make 50 grand or we want to make 70 grand or we want to make 40 grand, because it's easier to work on the percentage when you know the GDV and then work backwards with the refurb costs. But obviously you've got to have a certain level of contingency so that you can, you know, just in case you get to a property after you've completed and you're like, you rip back a brick wall and it's like, you know, most developers will go through that moment in their life where they come up with something that they didn't really want to face. Yeah. So nationwide, and and again, joint venture partnerships. A joint venture doesn't have to be yourselves and one other couple or one other business. There can be 2 or 3 of you in there. Obviously, you have to do it sensibly to make sure everybody's getting a decent return. But yeah, there's no strict location as such. It's wherever the money makes sense and wherever the demand, so the proof that property is selling. It's no point buying a property for 40 grand at auction that could probably sell for 200 grand once it's renovated, if it's right, I mean this respectfully, on the top of a Scottish hill where nobody can see it and it's not accessible. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, there needs to be activity. Right, that clears up. Normally I'd ask the question about who you would like to work with, what's your ideal client, because you're giving up your time to share your story and your expertise on this podcast. So I always like anybody watching this, whether it is live or wherever they see this, to think, could you work with Sophie? I want to always leave anybody that comes on the podcast, I want them to get 3 new bits of business that drives them forward, and make lots of connections. So hopefully 3 people watching this or any of the replays, wherever they may be, can reach out to Sophie. Always want you to get 3 bits of business, and I normally ask to describe your ideal client because I've kind of done that. To finish off and give a nice nugget of value, I'm going to take it back to business because you're doing the business mindset coaching. Anybody new to coming into business, maybe switching from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, or starting that property side business, having been that, having coached many people in that, what's one nugget of advice for somebody that hasn't yet taken that step into entrepreneurship, maybe a little bit reluctant, thinks they don't have the time, the skills and knowledge, a lack of confidence? What's one nugget of advice for somebody taking that step into business?
Do you know what? Pen and paper is the most underrated piece of equipment in any entrepreneur's toolbox, should we say. You know, get a pen and paper and literally write down everything you're fearful of. Absolutely everything. And don't hold back, because the problem with people is they do. And again, you're holding back because you're scared of seeing it yourself.
Yep.
And really, what you want to do with writing down everything you're fearful of is find out that you're actually fearful because you just don't know an answer of how to break those particular cycles. For example, you know, you need to write down different people that have inspired you in your life. Then come and find them. You know, it's something I call going crazy X with my clients. I'm like, go crazy X on somebody and stalk them. And what you want to do is you want to learn from those people. You don't necessarily have to pay for coaching from them, but go and stalk their life and be like, what are they doing? Because a lot of influencers or people that are successful, they're great at showing things online, and a lot of people only show the good stuff, but you want to absorb all that good stuff. So all I would just say is just research people that have inspired you, and then ask yourself, how can I achieve those same things? If you want a touch of reality, feel free to follow me on social media. I'm not afraid of putting the odd post where I'm in tears with like red eyes, because I'm like, this sucks. Today has just been utter shit. So, you know, again, I do that because I'm trying to show people that being an entrepreneur, you know, it's not all pink roses. But yeah, never underestimate pen and paper. Whatever you are feeling, whatever you are worried about, whatever vision you've got, however big your dream is, just give you an example. Like in front of me, I've got affirmation cards everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. They just keep coming. Like, and these are all my notes from just this morning. You know, like here, for example, I put unplug yourself from negativity and low vibrations, social media, news and people. Again, story for another day, but I have recently got sucked into some shite that I don't want to be focusing on. It's important to know about. It's not serving me right now. Again, never rely on one stream of income. Make investments to create multiple sources. Shut up noise from not living the life that you want. Like, I write down these affirmations on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's about retraining the mind. So yeah, my one bit of advice: don't underestimate the power of a pen and paper.
Why don't you say that? Because I had this to hand because I showed my morning routine there, and this is just a little journal. The Greatest Manifestation book is the one written by you guys. This is like 10 quid. Vex.
Okay, but
oh wow, I did not know that. There we go. We've got matching books. I think one of my team has this as well. But this is what's your vibrations, so you can actually say what is my vibrations. You can check in and say, am I being an asshole today? Am I being positive? Am I being happy?
can we just point out, by the way, we didn't talk about that before this call, did we?
I knew you were just in property. You were a mindset coach. You did property. That was it. So that's the way I love these, because it's getting behind the actual reality of people, away from the social media, away from because we share the positive stuff. Daniel, again, someone successful service accommodation entrepreneur, Danny. Fabulous advice. Always resonates to see both the positive and negative sides of building your business. So thanks for jumping on and saying that, Danny. So
Can I just rephrase that? Do you mind? Positive and difficult sides of building a business. It's never negative. Everything in life is feedback. There's no such thing as negative when it comes to just yourself and your life. Let that, get rid of that word. No such thing as negative. Everything is feedback. It can be difficult, it can be tough, it can be utterly shit. But yeah, get rid of negative. If you don't mind, sorry, I would immediately do that.
Great advice. We don't want to be programming ourselves with those words, so fantastic. But there you're already inspiring people. And this wasn't advertised. This was a kind of last minute thing. I just put a link. We should promote this. Once people start seeing this, Sophie, they can reach out to you. Find you on Facebook. Happy for you to connect. If you're jumping over to from employment or your own business to do property, follow Sophie's story, because it is about the ups and the downs, the positives and the learning experience, not negative, guys, not negative, learning experiences, because that's a real side of being an entrepreneur. Good if you're a social media influencer, as you say, and you can show all the good stuff and all the returns. But hey, for us mere humans, there are ups and downs. So thank you very much. It went into territory that is out with my comfort zone, definitely, as a podcast interviewer. So I have learned a lot as well. I think this is genuinely going to save lives. Somebody's just going to come across this. For those guys that watched it all the way through, thank you very much. If you happen to be watching a clip or seen the end of this somewhere, or seen a snippet, because I'll break it down to the individual parts, please go back and watch the full episode here, Sophie's story, because it's very inspiring. And I'll just finish by saying this, based on what I've heard, if you can go through everything you've done and achieve all the things you've achieved with the challenges you've had, a property flip and getting returns for owners is very, very easy. That should be the an easy day for you to move into property and succeed there based on everything else. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I definitely am a better person because of it. I think everybody else watching is. And guys, please connect with Sophie, and thank you very much for your time. Sophie, I'm going to say thank you to you as well. I took some notes down as well, and when I'm doing my manifestation tomorrow, I'm going to change it up slightly, so you've inspired me too. So thank you very much, everyone. A pleasure, and we'll see you in next week's episode.
You too. Thank you.